A very good evening to you. Welcome to KTN Prime. Tonight we're looking at the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Bill that is quote-unquote gagging the media, and we'll look at it vis-a-vis what the Constitution says about the freedom of the press in the Republic of Kenya. I'm Linda Ogutu. Let's take a look at our top stories tonight.
Are we just going to allow false and scandalous information to be written about us merely because we are members of parliament?
It's a stab in the back for journalists by Kenyan members of parliament. Treasury on the spot. How and why is the Kenyan government broke? Suspected rapist teacher is charged. An uproar in Kampala over woman's alleged. Welcome to the program. Our sign language interpreter. At the bottom end of your screen is Meresha Oweti. Now, Kenyan members of parliament have rejected a bid to delete two clauses in the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Bill seen as an attempt to gag the media. MPs shot down amendments by Elders Member of Parliament Aidan Canaan and voted to retain the two clauses which impose a $500,000 shilling fine or a jail term of 2 years or both for journalists who defame Parliament. It was a sigh of relief for the media on Monday when Elders MP Aidan Canaan announced proposed amendments seeking to delete three clauses, 27, 34 and 35, from the controversial Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Bill 2014, seen as an attempt to guard the media to protect parliamentarians from scrutiny.
Honorable Tongi.
But the relief for the media was short-lived. The Committee of the Whole House did not fully support the amendments. MPs were divided on deletion of clauses 34 and 35, which impose a $500,000 shilling fine, a jail term of up to 2 years or both for journalists who publish any false or scandalous reports on Parliament, its committees or its proceedings.
The members of the fourth estate have really complained about, and therefore entirely agree with the amendment.
Speaker, this amendment is scandalous, it's serious. We can't accept it, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy it has been deleted. Speaker, how do you make a person commit a crime by publishing parliamentary reports?
The word is false. If you publicize something false, honestly, you have to be sanctioned for that.
The media is very important, and the deletion of clause 34 is actually very important for this country.
The fact that we are members of parliament doesn't mean that anybody can just write anything about you. The clause is very clear. We are allowing this house to be a subject of unnecessary mob justice.
MPs rejected the amendments.
Clause 34 be deleted. Will as many members as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many members as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it.
A move that did not go down well with the Kenya Parliamentary Journalists Association, which had petitioned the sponsor of the bill and the Powers and Privileges Committee.
This bill negates the gains of the Constitution, denies us our rights as parliamentary reporters and journalists, and it is going to put us in a battlefront with Parliament.
But on clause 27, which requires that the permission of the Speaker or chairperson of a committee be sought before the electronic transmission of House or committee proceedings, MPs were almost unanimous.
This particular clause, in my opinion, was taking back Kenya to the dark days, and I'm sure it was in contravention of the whole Constitution.
I think this deletion is the very best that can be done to this particular bill. Chair, this was as draconian as it could get. One, it was going contrary to Article 35 of access to information.
Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
They voted to delete the clause. The bill is now headed to the Senate. Rita Tinina, KTN News. Let's stay with that story by Rita Tinina, and we are asking you a big question tonight. Should President Uhuru Kenyatta assent to the bill seeking to gag the media? Should President Uhuru Kenyatta assent to the bill seeking to gag the media? Let us know what you think. You've listened in to the arguments by the honorable members of parliament. You can send a short message to the number 22155. You can tweet me at Lindo Guto. You can tweet us at KTN News. Should President Uhuru Kenyatta assent to the bill seeking to gag parliament? That is a conversation that we want to have tonight. Allow me to bring in Rosemary Obala, Chairperson, Kenya Parliamentary Journalists Association. She's joining us from our I&M studio. Rosemary, before I speak to you, allow me to take our viewers through what's on the super wall. That is what the Constitution of Kenya says about the freedom of the media. I'm moving away so that the Jeep can focus on particular clause of the Constitution on the freedom of the media. The state shall not exercise control or interfere with any person engaged in broadcasting, the production or circulation of any publication or the dissemination of information by any medium or publication or dissemination. That is what the Constitution of Kenya says about the freedom of the media. So let me bring in Rosemary Obala, Chairperson, Kenya Parliamentary Journalists Association. Rosemary, thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Linda.
Tell me, Rosemary, first of all, break down these clauses for us. Clause 34, Clause 35.
Okay, Linda, Clause 34 talks about when somebody publishes a false or scandalized libel on parliament or parliament proceedings or parliamentary committees. At the same time, if somebody speaks words that are defamatory to parliament, then it relates to defamation. And Article 35 talks about when you're found to have defamed parliament, then you are entitled to a 2-year jail term, or you pay a fine of 500,000.
Okay, Rosemary, this is the concern, defamation. Is it really clear where does the buck stop? Because defamation of parliament is quote-unquote vague, Rosemary.
Okay, just to take you back, the fine is 500,000.
We talk about the fine, Rosemary. Just we're looking at how clear is this clause?
We think it is not a bit clear. It's a bit vague, because when they talk about defaming parliament, is it parliament as an institution, or is it parliament when you refer to the conduct of members, or when you cover anything within the premises of parliament? The clause is not a bit clear on where the buck stops as a journalist. Where are we allowed to cover, and to what extent, and to what level? When you cover, then they say you've defamed parliament.
Some of the arguments that are being given by journalist Rosemary is that this is now open to abuse. It's very easy to abuse these clauses. What do you think?
That is true, because anyone can use it. Is open. It's an open check for parliamentary for the MPs. And you see, the relationship between journalists and parliament has not been good. It's a love-hate relationship. So in this case, you'll find that MPs who feel that maybe to the extent that we cover them, we are exposing them more, will use these clauses to plow back on us or gag us. Because you see, at this level, they're supposed to be giving us that open. If you look at the Constitution, it talks about media freedom. So at this level, we are not supposed to be told to what extent we are able to cover parliament, because when we are in parliament, we are the eye of the public. If you look at Constitution chapter 118, it talks about public participation. That is, the public is supposed to scrutinize the members, because they have given the members that supreme power to represent them. Because the supreme law and Article 1 talks about supreme power by the people. It can be exercised directly or through their elected members. And now, since the public are not in parliament, the journalists are there. That is their role, to be able to bring to the public whatever is happening in parliament. We are able to expose the corruption in parliament, the ills in parliament, at the same time also show the public the legislations that are going on, or because parliament is a watchdog. But now when we are told that if you publish, to what level you can publish on issues parliament or committee or the proceedings in the House, then it means either this, what Parliament is trying to do is either to intimidate the journalists, to hide some things, or shield their conduct in Parliament.
Which brings me to my next question. Attempt to gag the media.
Yes.
Why do you think the members of Parliament are so afraid of the media?
If you look at this constitution, we are having a pure presidential system. So you find that the other arms of Parliament, Parliament is able to oversight what they do. But who watches the watchdog? This is where the media comes in. We are the people who are supposed to expose what our members are doing. And if you look at all these laws, there is a deliberate attempt to also block the media from exposing what our members are doing. And this is why all the time they're bringing these laws so that they are able to be immune and the public are not able to scrutinize what they are doing or expose what they do in Parliament.
All right, Rosalind, allow me to play the devil's advocate and look at some of the arguments that were made in Parliament today. Some members saying the media need to also take responsibility. We must have people to be accountable for their actions. Journalism must be like other profession. Another leader said it's necessary for self-preservation. What are your thoughts?
I agree with them to some extent, but we also have other institutions that also check the media. We also censor ourselves on what we do. We have an extent whereby you cannot publish or carry things that you know are contrary to the law. We have the Media Council, we have the Editors Guild, we also have other institutions that oversight what we do. So I think to that level, I don't think the MPs are being genuine when they say that we are not able to also control what we cover.
Because the argument there, Rosalind, is that the basic thing that they're against is false and scandalous information. They're not gagging the media, but they're against false and scandalous information.
Okay, Linda, maybe the argument here should be to what they have been defamed, because I don't think Parliament is a court of law, and that is the work of the judiciary to determine to what level an individual or an institution has been defamed. So to this extent, I don't think the MPs are being genuine.
So looking at the clauses, let's talk about the fines. What is the fine?
The fine is $500,000.
Is there a jail term?
2 years.
So $500,000 or 2 years in jail?
Yes.
So this bill is now heading to the Senate. Yes. Are you in consultation with the Senate, probably just giving them your side of the story, what you think needs to be amended in this bill?
Okay, Linda, just to take you back on the fine and the 2-year jail term. If you look at it, how many journalists can raise that money? How many journalists with the media houses stand by them when they've been sentenced to a jail term? In a way, they're just trying to intimidate us and to make the media, to gag the media to the extent that we are not able to expose what they do, because again, when you want to be transparent, there is the other question behind your back: to what extent am I exposing this story, and to what extent am I safe with this story? But to go to your question, yes, we have approached the Senate, we have talked to our members in the Senate, and we believe that they are reasonable enough, they are wise, and they will give this issue a more sober approach, because now it is off the MP's hands, the National Assembly, and it is headed to the Senate. We have had a chat with the Speaker of the Senate, we have had a chat with the leadership of the Senate, and that is not enough. We are going to lobby them. We are going to pass our memorandum just the same way we did with the National Assembly, and we hope they are going to consider all these issues that we put across, and then with that, our reservations will be considered.
Okay, Rosalind, so the man with the ultimate power, assuming this goes to the Senate and it passes through, is President Uhuru Kenyatta. So assuming he assents to this, how do you intend to seek redress? Because you're talking about gagging the media. How do you intend to seek redress for this?
Okay, Kenya Parliamentary Journalists Association is just one association. We have the Kenya Union of Journalists, we have the Editors Guild, we have Kenya Correspondents Association, and we have other media organizations that are also in this. We even have Article 19. We are going to consolidate all these people. We are going to have a stakeholders meeting, and from there we are also going to approach not only the House but even the committee concerned that the Speaker will commit this bill to, so that they can also give a second thought to our reservations.
Roslyn, the Constitution of Kenya is very clear on the freedom of the media, saying the state shall not exercise control over or interfere with any person engaged in broadcasting, the production or circulation of any production or dissemination of information by any medium. What does this bill now do to the freedom of the press?
What we see this bill trying to do is to negate the gains that we gained in the Constitution. It might not be outright, but I think it is a soft way to muzzle the media. And we believe that the President has been outspoken on this. He has committed to freedom of the press. And we believe that if this bill goes to him, let's hope that he will give it a second thought. He might reject it and not sign it. And if he does, then the next stage is go to court.
Roslyn Obala, Chairperson, Kenya Parliamentary Journalist Association, from our I&M studio in town. Thank you so much for speaking to us. And of course, the reason why this is a matter of contention is because looking at the Constitution is very clear about the freedom of the media. But then, that is the Constitution. The members of Parliament have passed that bill today. And we're looking at the supremacy of the Constitution, because that is where the hope of journalists is concealed. Supremacy of this Constitution. Well, this is what the Constitution says. This Constitution, let's go back to the first board before this. There we go. So, the Constitution of Kenya as you know it. This Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic and binds all persons and all state organs at both levels of government. The validity or legality of this Constitution is not subject to challenge by or before any court or other state organ. Any law, including customary law, that is inconsistent with this Constitution is void to the extent of the inconsistency, and any act or omission in contravention of this Constitution is invalid. Let's see how this goes in the coming days. Of course, this bill now heads to the Senate. So, moving on now, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta is asking members of the East African Legislative Assembly to simplify the process of approval for the region's funding. The approval is currently pegged on the region's presidents. But as Patrick Amimo now reports, President Kenyatta wants the authority bestowed on the chairperson of the regional bloc.
This is the second week for members of the East African Legislative Assembly since they converged in Kenya's capital city, Nairobi, for the second meeting of the regional parliament's fourth session. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta made an official address to members before the close of their Kenyan session this week. EALA Speaker Daniel Kidega said the policy paper on regional integration proposes the speedy enactment of laws by having bills assented to during the summit of East African Community Heads of State meetings. President Kenyatta welcomed the proposals and gave further suggestions.
We need to change the assented to. This issue of moving them around, and there are thousands of copies, or not hundreds of copies, takes forever and sometimes delays in assenting to bills that are critical to our community. So I see no reason, for example, why you should not introduce a proposal where the appropriations bill, which is essential for your operation, that should not require the signing and the consent of all of us. The chairman alone of the summit can sign the appropriations.
The East African Legislative Assembly is also pushing for full autonomy through direct funding. Speaker Daniel Kidega said the Secretariat is underfunded and this has affected delivery of services.
The ideal scenario would be full autonomy, including direct funding. This is absolutely necessary for the betterment of the EAC and our integration process.
Direct funding would strengthen the capacity, I believe, of the community to deliver its mandate. It would also hasten the day of complete integration. I want to assure you, Mr. Speaker, that this proposal has my complete support.
East African Community Partner States ratified the Common Market Protocol in July 2010. But 5 years down the line, non-tariff barriers still hinder free movement of people, goods, capital and services within the region. President Uhuru Kenyatta told the Assembly that the ultimate goal of political union will not be achieved if people are not allowed to move freely across the region.
But that bureaucracy hampers the speed and spirit of integration dispensation. Policies that promote integration to be espoused as opposed to those that hinder integration.
I strongly believe that the best way to do this and to leave a legacy that will ensure that this Assembly is remembered is to hasten the process of legislating the Common Market Protocol and anchoring the right to freedom of movement. I know that there are and has already been work done in these areas, and I am sure that in the remainder of your term you will want to finish this job.
Often, the regional parliament is regarded as an elitist club. The Assembly's roles needs to be publicized through a robust civic education and awareness in member states to entrench regional integration.
Too often the integration of East Africa is taken to be merely a political matter, a job for politicians, but not for the ordinary people. Indeed, it is true that leaders must lead, but we also have a responsibility to spark the imaginations of East Africans when it comes to integration.
The East African Legislative Assembly will complete its sittings in Nairobi Thursday. Members will be keen to see whether President Uhuru Kenyatta will live to his word and lobby fellow heads of state in the region to ensure that the Assembly is funded directly. Patrick Amimo, KTN News, Parliament.
The Treasury is being accused of hindering the growth of Kenya's economy. This is according to a report by the Office of the Control of Budget. The report says the government owes 112 billion shillings. Let's get further insight on this from our reporter, Samugina.
The 2014-2015 budget review reports indicts Treasury for plunging the country into a financial crisis, delaying to release cash meant for developing the country. Thus far, government has accrued pending bills worth 111.92 billion shillings as at June 2015. Various ministries, departments and state agencies are unable to execute their duties owing to the pending bills. The Office of the Control of Budget warning a high level of pending bills may negatively affect businesses and planned government activities in the subsequent financial year, as the budgeted funds will be directed to settling the pending bills. According to the report, government agencies blame Treasury's failure to release exchequer issues in a timely manner for the piling pending bills. The Office of the Control of Budget recommending Treasury to fund ministries, state departments and agencies timely in line with their cash flow projections and procurement plans. Among the worst affected ministries include the Presidency's office with the pending bill of over 94 million shillings in recurrent expenditure, Ministry of Defense with a recurrent bill of over 3 billion shillings. National Treasury itself has over 2 billion shillings in pending bills.
Inquiry indicates clearly that there is exchequer releases problems, and that is why even ministries cannot absorb. And the effect of that, Madam Speaker, I know many of us may not have financial background. The effect of that is a slowdown in economic growth.
Staff go for months without salaries. Critical operations are basically running to a halt. And it appears, Madam Speaker, that the government is experiencing some unprecedented financial crunch.
The unpaid amount is made up of 57.46 billion shillings in recurrent expenditure and 54.46 billion shillings in development expenditure. National Assembly's Budget and Appropriations Committee have summoned Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich over the current financial crisis the country finds itself in. This after Treasury Principal Secretary Kamau Thuge failed to appear before the committee. The government seeks to borrow 78.8 billion shillings to plug a budget deficit of 600 billion shillings, occasioned by low tax collection and wastage of public funds. Several institutions, counties and government agencies are cash-starved, unable to pay September salaries and fund development projects. Samogina, KTN News.
A Nairobi High School teacher accused of defiling a Form 1 student has been charged in court. Hilary Okeo of High Ridge Secondary School was charged with 2 counts of defiling the girl and committing an indecent act. The biology teacher has denied all the charges and was remanded in police custody until Friday, when his bail application will be determined. The prosecution is opposed to his release, saying he is likely to interfere with evidence by contacting students and staff who are listed to testify against him. The prosecution also wants him interdicted by the school, arguing that he is not fit to continue undertaking his functions as a teacher.
The high school teacher alleged to have defiled his 15-year-old student has now been formally charged in court. The man, identified as Hilary Okeo, is a teacher at Nairobi's High Ridge Girls' School. He denied that he defiled and indecently assaulted a minor. He has been remanded at Nairobi's Industrial Area Prison, awaiting the court to determine his bond on the 16th of October. High Ridge Girls' School in Nairobi's Parklands area is now on the spot, alleged to have protected the teacher while risking the life of the Form 1 student. She was reportedly abused on the 6th of October when the teacher asked her to wait for him in the staff rooms during evening preps. On her way there, he allegedly pinned her on the latrine wall and raped her. The institution is now accused of inaction, only taking the girl to hospital 3 days after the incident. It has also emerged that a school official who took the victim to Nairobi Women's Hospital allegedly ordered her clothes to be washed in a bid to tamper with evidence.
We are investigating, and in case we prove that the principal concealed the offense, then we shall also take him to court for the same offense.
The victim's mother says she was shocked to learn that her 15-year-old daughter had been put on PEP medication for HIV, yet no one bothered to tell her she had been raped in the first place.
The step was taken on Saturday after the matron told the principal, because the matron told the principal on Friday, and the principal took the case was taken serious. That's when the principal took the teacher and took him to Parkland Police Station.
Attempts to get the school side of the story were futile. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
Let's now cross borders and focus on a story that has been doing rounds more so on social media. There's an uproar in Kampala as women activists demand the resignation of the Ugandan police chief. This follows claims of undressing of a woman by police officers during a street protest early this week. Let's get the details from our reporter Solomon Serwanja.
Women rights activists faced off with the police in the Ugandan capital Kampala, protesting the manner in which the law enforcers handled women supporters of renowned opposition leader Dr. Kiza Besigye.
You stop them, you stop
them. Last week, police blocked Dr. Besigye in Bukunjiri district located in western Uganda. During the scuffle, footage captured shows a woman being arrested by both men and women officers and later on stripped naked. This arrest, which has been described by many as brutal and a shame to the decency of a Ugandan woman, has caused a national uproar, leading to demonstrations, the protesters demanding that the police be brought to account.
You undressed my fellow sister. You undressed her. You humiliated her. You broke her family.
Police were forced to use pepper spray to restore calm. These women activists wanted to take a petition to the Parliament of Uganda demanding that the Police Chief General Kale Kayihura resign this position for failing to handle the police. However, like you can see, they have been blocked from proceeding, and for now, they remain trapped.
It's not the fact, it's not even the last. It's a matter of urgency and immediate.
It's not only women who have raised their voices against police's actions. The clergy have their lamentations.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this act.
This trend is worrying to human rights activists as Uganda readies itself for the 2020s.
The population is increasingly getting worried that as we approach the 2016 elections, we are likely to witness a repeat of similar incidents that can spark of violence.
The human rights defender says that such actions by the police cannot go unpunished, although the police insists that the protests are illegal.
As per the Constitution, amongst our function is to preserve and detect crime. So we detected that a crime was going to be committed, and that's why we stopped them from going to Parliament. They had no authority. They had no permission to march in a large number to move to Parliament. So that was unlawful assembly.
It is not the first time Uganda has witnessed such protests. In 2012, the leader of the Women's League for the opposition party for Democratic Change, Ingrid Turinawe, was undressed by police officers during a demonstration in Kampala. Solomon Serwanja, KTN News, Kampala, Uganda.
Lots of angry women there in Uganda. You're watching KTN Prime. We're taking a short break. We'll be back. You're watching KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. We're just about to get into business news, but before we do, let's recap our big question. We're asking, should President Kenyatta assent to the bill seeking to gag the media? Should President Uhuru Kenyatta assent to that bill seeking to gag the media? Let's sample some of your views. Patrick Kiganane says, impunity is fighting back. The president should not sign this bill. Eddie Mugono says, sometimes the Kenyan media can be irresponsible. Anton Haukwa says, no, this bill is meant to intimidate. And finally, Yithuki Joseph says, though the bill seeks to guard against false reporting, it is subject to abuse by our legislators. Just your feedback on our big question tonight, whether or not you think President Uhuru Kenyatta should assent to that bill that is seeking to gag the media. Let's take you to business news now, where Joy Doreen Bira is standing by.
Good evening and thank you for keeping it KTN. It's time for Business Now. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. News that the central bank had put Imperial Bank under receivership has raised anxiety in the country. The bank has stirred memories of the 90s when weak banks could collapse with all the hopes and dreams of its debtors. And the market has been thrown into frenzy, forcing the Central Bank of Kenya to step in and reassure the market. Here is Adelaide Changole with more on that story.
Kenya's banking sector was abuzz with activity on Wednesday as the market sought to make sense on the central bank's decision to put Imperial Bank under receivership.
What happened was that the directors of Imperial Bank are the ones on their own volition that detected some inappropriate banking practices within the bank and decided to report the matter to the central bank.
The news that the Central Bank of Kenya had put yet another bank under receivership just 2 months after announcing that it would be liquidating Dubai Bank galvanized worried investors into action. The market woke up to news of a perceived bank run on some of the country's smaller banks as debtors sought to safeguard the Nairobi Securities Exchange, where all the listed lenders, with the exception of I&M Bank, were in the red as investors dumped the stocks.
So we haven't seen any banks, experiencing a bank run. There was some bit of excitement in the market because of the information.
The Kenya Bank Association has, however, blamed the losing streak on a list of banks said to be circulating on social media. According to the list, 20 of the country's 43 banks were said to be at risk of collapsing, which only worked to fuel an already precarious situation.
The time when the National Treasury had proposed to increase the core capital requirement for the commercial banks from 1 billion to 5 billion. And then somebody drew up the lists of the banks that were below the 5 billion mark. And that's how this list of the 22 banks came about. But this has got nothing to do with their soundness, nor their liquidity, nor their financial standing in the market. So it is an issue of a list that was drawn for a different purpose, being perpetrated through the, being circulated through the social media as a list portraying banks in a different light.
The central bank also stepped in to calm market jitters, adding that the banking sector remained safe and robust. The regulator also said it would use all the instruments at its disposal to provide liquidity support to the banking system to ensure stability.
Should there be a problem, I think central bank is ready to step in to stabilize the market.
That, however, did little to calm nerves. The resultant sense of panic fueled what analysts have called the flight to quality, which threatened the well-being of the financial sector and could have a significant impact on the well-being of the country's entire economy.
I think that's a very powerful message that is coming from the regulator to the market out there, that they have got no issues with the banking sector. This is a specific problem that was in a particular at the individual institution level.
The latest actions just add to the woes that have afflicted Kenyan banks since the start of the year. Only time will tell if the banks can weather the storm and maintain their winning ways. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Uchumi Supermarkets has announced plans to shut down its operations in Uganda and Tanzania. The move comes as part of restructuring efforts led by Chief Executive Julius Kipngetich to revive the ailing retailer. And as Michael Karanja now reports, the plan is to first ensure Uchumi is profitable in Kenya before seeking growth in the regional markets.
Turnaround has become a word synonymous when it comes to describing Uchumi Supermarkets. Having risen from the ashes like the proverbial phoenix in 2011, the retailer is now in need of another major overhaul if it is to survive in the market. Faced with limited options, Uchumi management has taken radical steps to ensure the listed firms. First on the block was the sale of non-core assets as Uchumi seeks to raise 2 billion shillings to pay off debtors. And now, to seal revenue leakages, Uchumi has shut down its subsidiaries in Uganda and Tanzania, which it termed as loss-making. According to Uchumi CEO Dr. Julius Kipngetich, both subsidiaries have not made a profit in over 5 years, but accounted for 25% of the retailer's operating costs.
Uchumi has gone through some challenges, but those challenges are now behind us. And with my appointment and that of Willie and our COO and many other senior members of staff who are coming, Uchumi will be back.
The focus for Uchumi in the short term is to get its Kenyan operations back to a profitable position before looking to new markets for growth. Competition in the retail space has been heating up with Nakumatt, Tuskys and Naivas taking up most of the market share. The entry of global stores such as Carrefour and The Game has only intensified the competition domestically. In both countries, but has not announced how much it will be raising from the sale. Uchumi has written to the Capital Markets Authority seeking approval for the planned sale of assets and is waiting for a response from the regulator. The supermarket chain posted a half-year loss of 262.3 million shillings compared to a net profit of 106.9 million shillings recorded a year earlier. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
The Energy Regulatory Commission has announced the largest drop in super petrol prices in the last 3 months, retailing 9 shillings and 33 cents lower for the next 30 days. Diesel and kerosene users will, however, have to bear with higher costs following the monthly review. KTN's Abby Agina has that story.
The recent price adjustments announced by the ERC are a major reprieve as motorists and commuters continue to sag under the burden of high transport and commodity costs. With the new prices, Super Petrol recorded the highest drop, with the litre expected to retail at 93 shillings and 29 cents in Nairobi, dropping by 9 shillings and 33 cents. It will, however, be a tough month for millions of low-income households as the cost of kerosene shot up by 3 shillings and 49 cents to retail at 56 shillings, while diesel rose by 2 shillings and 44 cents and will now retail at 82 shillings and 43 cents. According to ERC, the price adjustments are anchored on the drop in the landed cost of Super Petrol, which fell by 18.86% to $564 per ton. The landed costs for diesel and kerosene were, however, higher by 5.78% and 6.43% respectively. A cross-section of Kenyans told KTN that they would still want the prices to further go down to bring down the cost of living.
Mafuta ikipanda tunajua chakula itaenda juu, vitu mingi zitagaramika. So Wakenya watazidi kuumia.
Kusema kweli bei ya mafuta imetuadhiri, manake imekuwa ikipanda every other time. Na wakati ilianguka, it was not commensurate. So inaonekana kama imepanda sana. And it's the high time that the government did something to regulate the price of petrol.
The cost of living has gone up, it's quite expensive. Considering that there's a huge traffic jam in Nairobi, driving your personal vehicle to Nairobi has become very expensive.
New adjustments are indicative of the global oil prices, which have been on a steady marginal upswing in recent months.
Well, when you talk about fuel, this is a subject that touches on millions of lives here in Kenya. And with the new adjustments in the pump prices, this is expected to significantly impact on many households moving forward. Abiagina, KTN, Nairobi.
And that's all the time we had for business tonight, but sports is coming up. More news, log on to our website standardmedia.co.ke or ktnnews.com. I'm Joy Doreen Bira.
Sports Kenya held a forum which brought together officials from the Ministry of Sports, investors and stakeholders to discuss on the 3 stadia project that will commence next year. The new stadia, which will be constructed in Nairobi, Mombasa, Eldoret, are expected to provide a rapid growth to the sports industry and infrastructure.
In 2013, the Jubilee Alliance in its manifesto promised to construct 5 stadia across the country to improve the state of sports in the country beyond the capital city Nairobi. Close to 3 years after that promise, the wait continues with not even a single facility in place. Sports Kenya, the body mandated to run the project, held a forum involving stakeholders and other investors to discuss the construction of 3 stadia in Nairobi, Mombasa and Eldoret.
We've taken note of is these other games that we've forgotten. If we're a country that participates in the Olympics, then we should look at badminton. We should look at all the other indoor games and so on and so forth.
The Nairobi Stadium is expected to be put up on an 87-acre piece of land on Gong Road, close to the Jamhuri Park. The Mombasa Stadium will be constructed in an 82 acres land owned by the Shimolatewa Secondary School, while the Eldoret Stadium, dubbed Athletic Center of Excellence, will be built next to Eldoret University.
We have received 1.8 billion from government because it was given by Parliament in the last budget. That was number one, seed money for us to facilitate the construction of the 3 international stadiums.
Construction of the stadia is expected to commence early 2016. The stadium that will be constructed in Nairobi will be able to accommodate 40,000 fans, while those of Mombasa and Eldoret will accommodate 21,000 fans. Abula Ahmed, KTN Sports.
With the FKF elections fast approaching, the Football Kenya Electoral Board, chaired by lawyer Donald Kipkorir, has been faulted for not taking charge of its responsibilities.
The Federation should hand over the process of verification of clubs and the process of doing the list of the delegates to participate in the elections to be done by the Electoral Board, as stipulated in the constitutions of the FKF and even FIFA.
What you're just asking is that the Electoral Board needs to take over the electoral process. And this is by, first of all, they should have met. 2 weeks to the election, the Electoral Board has not met. And they have not even, it is so surprising, they don't even know what the rules are talk about. So we are telling Honorable Ali Wario, the Minister, that you need also to take charge. And it is a shame to you because you allow now the Deputy President and the President to come and take your responsibility, which you are supposed to have been doing. So it is very unfortunate that the Minister has not taken his responsibility seriously.
KTN weather.
President Uhuru Kenyatta sent the bill seeking to gag the media. That was our big question tonight on KTN Prime. Should President Uhuru Kenyatta assent to the bill seeking to gag the media? Abdullahi says, I think it's another PR game from the executive. Dennis Osiem Ondiere says, no, he shouldn't assent to this bill if transparency and accountability means something to him. Kim Tai Martin says, the media has already gagged itself long time ago, so the bill does not make any difference. Irura Mwongera says, the Jubilee government seems to care less about constitutionalism. Abdallah Qasim says, but Kenyan media must also help Kenya grow in all sectors. Did they help Kenya elect good leaders? Your feedback on our big question tonight, whether or not you think President Uhuru Kenyatta should assent to the bill seeking to gag the media. And that is where we leave it on KTN Prime. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you on KTN Home, JKL begins right now with Jeff Koinange. And for those of you on KTN News, Africa Speaks begins right now with Joy Dorinbira. Have a good night.